In this edition of Southern Newsweek, the Prime Minister announces his intention to step down before Christmas, and it could signal a change for a local MP. Will beautification to Cromwell's entrance entice visitors to stop and spend? And a major milestone is reached in the $600,000 restoration of Dunedin's old prison. Kia ora, I'm Holly Buchanan. Prime Minister John Key stunned the nation by announcing his resignation from the country's top job. He's won 3 terms as Prime Minister and had just celebrated his 10-year anniversary as leader of the National Party. But his resignation may have an impact on a Dunedin-based Member of Parliament.
He's still in the top job, according to the party's website. However, Prime Minister Key told caucus members this morning he's stepping down. Party insiders say it even came as a shock to them. Otago Daily Times political editor Dean McKenzie says the news came as a surprise to many.
I'm sure his caucus colleagues were stunned as well. They would have arrived this morning just for a normal caucus meeting and John Key dropped his bombshell of a resignation on them.
In a media release, the outgoing PM made special mention of his family, saying, "Brona has made a significant sacrifice during my time in politics. And now is the right time for me to take a step back in my career and spend more time at home." Dean McKenzie says the announcement blows open the playing field for next year's general election.
See, I think Labor will be getting a bit of a sniff now of a new leader coming in. It won't be a new leader because everybody will know who the person, but just the shift in dynamics. You know, John Key is hugely popular. Some of that popularity is waning, but he's still massively ahead in preferred Prime Minister stakes. Andrew Litter's got a sniff of just getting up a bit higher now in the preferred Prime Minister stakes. I think it's all on for young and old actually. I think if Labor can play the game, you know, him with a bit of a sniff.
Prime Minister John Key has advised the Governor-General that he will resign as Prime Minister on December the 12th. McKenzie says Dunedin's Michael Woodhouse, who currently holds the Revenue, Workplace Safety and Immigration portfolios, will be hot property for those wanting to lead National into the 2017 elections.
Judith Collins would fancy her chances. Stephen Joyce, maybe not as a leader, but he definitely wants to be the leader. Amy Adams, she's been a slow burner, if that's the right phrase for National. A high achiever, but she hasn't got many friends. Simon Bridges was always picked as a future leader when he first came into the National Party. Hasn't really performed well, and I just think it's too soon for him. If Key had got through the next election, Bridges would have been in with a shot. They need somebody experienced, so it's going to be English, Joyce, Collins or Adams, just depending who's got the numbers.
John Key expects the National Party caucus will hold a special meeting on December the 12th to elect a new leader. After that, John Key will travel to Government House to resign as Prime Minister, and he expects the Governor-General will appoint the new Prime Minister soon after. Key says he will remain as the Member of Parliament for Helensville before stepping down closer to the next election, therefore avoiding the cost of a by-election. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
Southland Museum is calling for people to bring in huhu grubs. It's the annual food drive for the Tuatara as they come into the warmer months and are looking to eat more. And the locusts just aren't cutting it for them.
Summer's here, which means the Tuatara are about to start feeding again. Hi, I'm Ruby Spinkin in Otago here at the Southland Museum, where these guys are hungry for huhu grubs. Warmer weather means the 80 Tuatara at Southland Museum are about to start getting active again. And Lindsay Hazley says this means they need food, and lots of it.
They sort of go through a starving period over the winter because in nature there's no insects for them to eat. So within the captive environment here we do the same and we don't feed them. So for the warmer weather, which we had at the beginning of the month, they're all out and hungry. We've got our locusts, we had some huhu grubs, but we're totally depleted of the huhu grub population now.
Each year, Mr Hazley calls on the community to help feed the Tuatara. He says altogether they go through around 150 grubs per week. He'd usually feed them locusts, but they're needing something bigger and tastier.
It's a very safe, convenient food. It's not their natural diet. There's no way would they ever eat a huhu grub in the wild. Mostly it's wetter, beetles, lizards, occasional seabirds when the seabirds come to the island to nest. So we can't have that in Southland here or provide those sort of foods.
And the huhu grubs aren't the only exciting thing coming to the Tuatara soon. The Southland Regional Development Strategy, or SWORDS, is looking to develop and improve the Tuatarium.
The Swords had their meeting yesterday, and I see that the kakapo and tuatara is high priority to get done. Our tuatara has aged. We had a new roof put on about 18 years ago, and it's slowly deteriorating, so it's getting quite important that this program and project goes ahead. I'm really looking forward to it, so hope that the whole city gets behind it.
But before the Tuatara get a new roof, Hazley says the little guys like this one, Cat, need to eat grubs to grow healthy and become part of the breeding program. If you want to find out more information on how to feed guys like Cat, then head to the Southland Museum Facebook page. I'm Ruby Spink for the South Today.
Changes to Cromwell's front entrance are almost complete. The Central Otago District Council has spent around $770,000 landscaping the ground beneath the town's distinctive big fruit. And it's all in a bid to stop the traffic and get tourists to spend.
They were always eye-catching, but with a new coat of paint and a new grassy landscape all around, they're even more difficult to ignore now. Hi, I'm Mark Price in Cromwell, here just in time to see the finishing touches being put to the redesign of the land around the town's big fruit. These two stonemasons have a little bit of Pulburn schist still to add to walls at the entrance to the big fruit, but apart from that and a bit of grass growth to come, the job is pretty much finished. The big fiberglass apple, pear, apricot and nectarine have been a focal point for all traffic passing Cromwell since 1989. The aim of the redevelopment is to divert tourists into the town's business centre.
Cromwell's a great place to drive past, and really, or you can stop and look at the fruit, which is the same as driving past if you don't come in. So now what we're looking at, the barrier's now removed. People can see there's something there to go and look at. And sure, some will just probably stop and get a photo of the fruit, but hopefully some now will say, oh, it's worth going in there and having a closer look.
The big fruit is opposite the Wooing Tree Vineyard, and workers there today, when prompted, did wonder why a bunch of grapes was not part of the big fruit.
Yeah, grapes and cherries, they're the two fruit that are missing. The reality is what's there is relevant. It's part of our history. And you know, you can take the view that you could add a grape, you can add a cherry, but someone needs to find the money for that. And at this stage we're saying, well, we think the ratepayer money is better off spent on some other things. And you might even question saying, well, do you need to have a grape and a cherry?
The big fruit's huge sealed car park was still off limits today, but over summer is expected to get plenty of use by tourists stopping for a close-up look and a little shopping. I'm Mark Price for the South Today.
Dunedin became a bit international this week thanks to a dash of Polish flavour. The ambassador and Polish consul visited Dunedin Library to see a 238-year-old book in the Heritage Collection. And while he was here, he took in the beauty of a 100-year-old church.
There's a side to Dunedin that's rarely seen. Its Polish side.
I'm Roselle LeBone, here outside the Mary Queen of Peace Church, which was built over 100 years ago right here in Dunedin by Polish settlers. It's just one stop on the itinerary of the Polish ambassador who's visiting the city this week.
The ambassador, along with his wife Agnieszka and his daughter Anastasia, arrived at the city library yesterday to visit with some very old books. These ones have a special significance, as Polish author John Reinhold Forster was the naturalist on Captain James Cook's second Pacific voyage.
They recorded 120 plants here in this country, in Dusky Sound and in Charlotte. Also 38 bird species, and the son, so George, made very beautiful drawings, so we can find these drawings in different publications.
Forster published the book, Observations Made During a Voyage Around the World, upon returning from this trip. The ambassador also presented to the library a new book on Forster written by Auckland-based Polish author Dr. Joanna Branley. Like Dunedin, Poland is home to UNESCO City of Literature, Krakow, and the first Polish settlers came to Otago and Southland from the Kościerzyce region in the 1870s.
Are the Poles good travellers? Naturally, are they good navigators?
Oh yes, they are very good travelers, and now if you travel across the world you can find our compatriots everywhere.
Gniewczkowski's visit is about more than books. He shared his thoughts on Poland's relationship with New Zealand and the country's role in world politics.
Usually we say that we are like-minded nations, and on the international stage we share the same values, like democracy and international law, and we think that we are very good partners.
There were other stops on the ambassadorial trail, including a visit to this beautiful church in Broad Bay.
Monastery in Poland, the original icon has been restored by art restorers, so you don't really see those scars. You only see those two scars on her face, which she was cut by the sword by the Tatar.
The stained glass panel protectors were paid for in part by Polish Heritage of Otago and Southland Charitable Trust. Roselle LeBone, The South Today.
The project to restore the former Dunedin prison has achieved a significant milestone. 2 100-kilogram pieces of the building's facade were put in place this week. It's part of the $600,000 restoration project.
Pediments in place without impediment. The restoration of the former Dunedin prison is 2 large 100-kilogram steps closer after this morning's hard work. The 2 semicircular pediments were an integral part of the building's frontage, but were removed in the mid-1950s.
It's a pretty significant day because we have a photographic record of these pediments being here, these semicircular pediments being here in the very early 50s, but 1957 they'd gone kaput. And I think for most Dunedinites, they probably have no memory of what the architectural grandeur of this place was.
Restoring Dunedin's former prison to its original glory is taking the Dunedin Prisons Charitable Trust a considerable amount of money and a lot of work from dedicated professionals. Hi, I'm Daryl Baser, 15 metres up, standing on scaffolding in the courtyard of the former Dunedin prison. Behind me, the first pediment has been erected, and the second one is going up just behind the camera. We'll see how that goes. Architectural consultant and project manager for the restoration, Guy Williams, believes when the building is fully finished, it will be another piece of Dunedin's feature architecture.
It's a really significant area, and this place, with its architectural detailing, the decorative detailing put back on, will fit very comfortably within that rather delightful, architectural expression that is this part of town.
He says the original architect, John Campbell, also designed several other significant buildings around the city in his notably flamboyant style. Williams says this part of the project is very close to its $600,000 budget, and the Trust is grateful to many organisations who are helping them to fully restore this grand 120-year-old building to its original glory. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
Coming up on Southern Newsweek, a successful drifting event held in Dunedin's indoor stadium attracts a whole new following, and it's birthday time for a special 60-year-old. Welcome back. The 2-day D1NZ National Drifting Championships attracted over 7,000 people to Forsyth Bar Stadium in Dunedin recently. Another 10,000 viewed the high-octane action live online. And organisers say they've gained a whole new following from the lower South Island.
It's the most prestigious drifting event in the Southern Hemisphere, and for the first time ever it was held indoors. Cars sped around the 320-metre concrete track at speeds in excess of 110 kilometres per hour, side by side, and there was plenty of burning rubber. Organisers say the influx of economic benefits were not just for Dunedin but also for the series, and in the build-up to the event there was more media coverage for the D1NZ than any other motorsport in New Zealand.
That's really positive for Dunedin, nationwide exposure for Forsyth Bar in the region. So, crowd came out, they loved it, they interacted with the drivers in the event, the drivers loved it. It was just a really good feeling, no major incidents, and now it's the glorious task of pickup.
The top 4 battle at the end of the night saw Drew Donovan and Nico Reid go head-to-head, while Darren Kelly met Cole Armstrong. But it was Armstrong who made the perfect start to the championship with his first Pro Series win in a Nissan Skyline 250 GT.
And without a doubt, him and Drew Donovan, who came second, they definitely were the best drivers on the day. They were always door-to-door action, beautiful switches, like synchronised ballet just out there in cars.
It wasn't only fast cars on display, with motorbikes also taking centre stage and giving the crowd a taste of Moto FX. It was the drifting that many had come to watch, and for those new to the sport, it was all explained as the action was underway.
We had to give the 411 on how drifting went, and people, once they understand the technical elements of it and the judges talk through it and the live stream, it was really good. We had over 10,000 people tuning into the live stream, so for us in the region again, that was really cool as well.
This is only the start of the D1 NZ series, and in 4 weeks' time they'll battle it out all over again in Palmerston North. The crew and volunteers spent Saturday night and Sunday breaking up the track that held together so well for the entire event. The concrete was trucked out to get recycled and the plywood sent back to suppliers. But what does that all mean for the grass? Well, that will undergo its annual maintenance ahead of next year's exciting rugby fixtures. Dee Karen, The South Today.
It was a slide to the finish line for the competitors in the recent Three Peaks Enduro mountain bike race. The event involves 6 timed stages over 2 days around the 3 main peaks which overlook Dunedin, and riders were able to successfully complete all stages of the trail thanks to well-timed breaks in the weather.
Slipping and sliding down the trail at breakneck speed. It takes a certain kind of competitor to cross the finish line first, taking half the track with them.
Are your bike's looking like it's seen the rounds today?
Had a bit of mud on it.
A bit of it, been through the mill?
Yeah, it's got a little bit of Dunedin goodness on it.
Mount Cargill, Flagstaff and Signal Hill all saw plenty of action this weekend as an international pool of top bikers took off for the Enduro Challenge. The ride came down to 2 contenders for the winner's spot, defending champion Joe Nation and his closest rival, up-and-coming junior rider Ben Friel.
Yeah, apart from a few hiccups, it was fine, so yeah, hopefully sitting pretty good for tomorrow to try and defend it. Even
Nation, a seasoned rider, didn't escape a few thrills and spills.
Yeah, no, it's just a clip of the tree, so it's nothing major.
Race founder and former New Zealand Olympic team rider Kashi Lukes says with the event in its 5th year, mountain biking is now the most popular form of racing in New Zealand.
The calibre of those riders seems to be going up each year, and in particular this year it's jumped up again, and I think that's due to being an Enduro World Series qualifier event this year. So what that means is that riders here get points, and that helps them to qualify for the World Series races.
In the end, no one could touch Nation, who shaved more than a minute off the time of runner-up Friel as he glided home for the finish. The women's race title was taken out by Renee Wilson. Roselle LeBone, The South Today.
There was a birthday party with a twist at the Dunedin railway station this week. JA1274 was the last steam locomotive to come out of the hillside workshops. And now that it's 60 years old, residents and visitors will get a chance to get up close and personal with the engineering history.
She stands proudly next to the Dunedin railway station with all of her engineering history on display. This is JA1274, a magnificent 109.4 tonne steam locomotive built in 1956 at the Hillside Workshop in Dunedin. It was the last steam loco commissioned by the New Zealand Railways. When the steam era came to an end in 1971, the Railway and Locomotive Society set in motion a plan to preserve JA1274.
It is very important because it shows the engineering skills that Dunedin had in the 1950s, that we could build our own steam engines, and it was a big achievement and employed a lot of people at Hillside Workshops. It's a shame now that it's closed down, but it shows our engineering history.
To celebrate her 60th birthday, open days are being held so people can have a close-up look around. There will also be retired locomotive engineers who fired up and drove JA1274 in her heyday. And thanks to the efforts of train enthusiasts, the skills of steam won't be lost.
The likes of Ocean Beach Railway out at St Kilda here, which was New Zealand's first preservation railway, they have smaller steam engines. There's other groups like Mainline Steam and Steam Incorporated that use these big steam engines. The closest sister to this one is JA1271, which is fully overhauled and runs on the main line. So there's examples of these engines to be seen running.
After spending most of her working life hauling passenger trains and freight trains, JA1274 sits happily in between Tuatara Otago Settlers Museum and the Dunedin Railway Station. Dee Karen, The South Today.
After the break on Southern Newsweek, art lovers are in for a real treat, and we take a look at the action from Dunedin's Santa Parade. Welcome back. It's art from a different perspective. Art Centre is holding its annual exhibition at the Dunedin Community Gallery, and it's a chance to experience and purchase one-of-a-kind pieces made in the studio by people who use mental health services.
For the artists, it's the culmination of a year's work, and this exhibition marks 30 years since Art Centre has been up and running. I'm Roselle LeBone. The Art Centre artists spent thousands of hours knitting, painting, sewing and moulding to create hundreds of unique objects for the end-of-year exhibition. Art Centre is an organisation which provides an artistic platform for creative people in the community who use mental health services.
It takes a little bit of patience, but it's quite fun, quite therapeutic.
Paul Smith says while people's personal experiences inform their art, those living with mental health issues should not be identified by that label.
We're not therapists, so it's not necessary for us to have that label shown. And even, the work in here holds up by itself.
He says the artists come from varied creative backgrounds, and there's a wide range of work being done at Art Centre.
Ceramics and glazing, jewellery, printmaking, etchings, a whole range of things that a lot of people have never tried.
The artists also learn to deal with the everyday realities of the difficult artistic lifestyle.
Having to deal with sales and, sometimes not selling work is part of that process as well, and understanding that commercial reality.
The fruits of their labours are here for Dunedin to enjoy until next Wednesday. Roselle LeBone, The South Today.
And finally, thousands of children lined the streets of towns around the lower South Island to get a glimpse of the Jolly Man in red over the weekend. Annual Santa parades were held in Dunedin, Invercargill and Balclutha, and it's a timely reminder to parents that it's not long until Santa and his elves have to get to work.
St Nicholas took a tiki tour around the south over the weekend. He first touched down in Balclutha on Saturday morning, with many locals lining the streets, before surviving a rainy Invercargill Christmas parade later that day. It's understood Invercargill Mayor Tim Shadbolt was a feature of the parade with his now trusty scooter. Mr S. Claus touched down in Dunedin, with George Street lined by excited children ready and waiting to see some well-known characters glide into the octagon. 80 floats took part in Dunedin, and in what has been described as a Christmas miracle, with heavy grey clouds not amounting to anything except a few spots of rain. The usual suspects took part in the parade, including a flotilla of emergency services vehicles, with fire, ambulance and police all taking part. Popular favourites, including the Flintstones and Barbie, along with characters from movies including Cars, were a hit with kids of all ages. And then, of course, bringing up the tail, the big guy in the red suit brought the parade to a close. Thousands of people enjoyed a stroll down the middle of Dunedin's George Street after Santa and the reindeer headed off across the octagon. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
And that's all for this edition of Southern Newsweek. You can see more of Southern News by following us on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter, or via our website, channel39.co.nz. I'm Holly Buchanan. Thanks for watching.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.